Hey, Andy, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Jason.
Yeah, I'm excited to have you on. So tell us who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Andi Graham. I'm the CEO and founder at Big C. We are a marketing agency. We started as a web development agency. We still do that back in 2005. So it's been quite a while. 2025 is coming up on us pretty quick. So
Wow,
it's been a
that's
while.
great. What how'd you get into starting the agency? Was this by accident? Were you a computer programmer?
Yeah, my degree, I went to my bachelor's degree was, it ended up in sociology, but I started it in advertising. I've always been interested in the marketing side of things. And I really liked the sociology, the combination of sort of communications with behavior change and that intersection, and learning about how that works in people's brains and as groups change. And so I was always interested in it, and I taught myself graphic design, which I'm a terrible designer, so there's no
What did
pretense
you
there.
start off on? Was it Corel
Um,
Draw?
no, I was mostly in like fireworks because I was trying to do web
Well, I
stuff.
remember Fireworks.
Yeah, I loved
Yeah, and
it.
Dreamweaver.
Yeah, I must have done some Coral Draw in I don't, it was like the late 90s. So I was doing I worked at a record shop, and then I also worked at a pizza shop, and I would design their menus and just do fun stuff like that, which I loved. When I got my first real job, I was doing a lot of marketing activities. I started their first email newsletter. I started teaching myself to code because I wanted to make more visual changes than I could do through the sort of terrible WYSIWYGs that existed at the time. And so I started building small websites, and I started taking on a lot of clients. And then, yeah, accidentally it became more lucrative than my full-time job was. And I realized I could sort of make that happen. I also knew pretty quickly that I'm a really great content person. I'm really good copywriter, really good at organizing projects and the strategy behind them, but I am not the best designer. And then my aspirations for the websites we were building were far higher than the code I could write as well. So it sort of influenced me to start bringing in people who were better at those things than I was.
Yeah, I was a horrible coder. I outsourced everything in school to get my degree in that. But I was a pretty good designer. But quickly, as I started hiring designers, I was like, man, you guys are way better
Yep.
uh, than me. And I need to actually concentrate on, bringing in the business and then putting people in place
Yep.
to, make sure we're delivering. So,
Yep. And that's exactly, I'm one of those people who has good taste, but can't execute it herself. And that might just be because I don't have the patience to get that good. I'm a jack of all trades. I like to change directions very frequently. I'm not one who's going to sit down and become the best at, anything. I want to be good at a whole lot of different things. And I think running a business it's a helpful way to be, because I never just heads down in sort of one area, because I have to learn the finance side. I have to learn the biz dev side. I've got to learn a little bit about everything. So
what was the hardest thing in the beginning?
just balancing cash flow. I think I was the same as every other agency owner, not paying myself, figuring out I'd land these huge projects, and we did milestone billing, and I'd have to get through 2 months of not having cash in the bank to pay these folks. And then balancing culture with actually, guys, we have to get work done. It's not just ride your scooters around all day and smoke weed in the bathroom. It's like we actually have to write code. So I think that was it. Like, I wanted to be everybody's friend, and wanted people to like me. And I've met with so many agency owners. I finally found a group in like 2012. I think I went to this agency owners camp, and I sat with a table of women, and I realized pretty quickly that there were a lot of women who were in the same boat as me, where we felt like everything was our fault and we couldn't charge the client more. We couldn't say no. We couldn't, if we screwed something up, everybody was billing time and materials at that time. And when projects went over, we had to just eat it because we had screwed up. And I learned pretty quickly that our male cohorts were not feeling that way. They were thinking, no, we're all building new things. These two things have not been done together before. We don't know how this plugin is going to play with this theme. And that's part of part of the project. And it really just triggered something in my head, like, okay, I should be doing this differently. And finding, I think, that cohort of peers it just unlocked something for me, where I got to actually commiserate. I worked at an agency for about a year as the only agency experience I had before I started my own. So finding people who are sharing the same problems, but also so incredibly openly sharing their solutions and being honest about what was hard and what was easy. That sort of thing was such a gift. So that
Well,
changed a lot.
yeah, I mean, when you can find your tribe
Hmm.
of the people that believe in the same things you believe in, that you can kind of see. And I always tell anybody when they join the mastermind, I'm like, look, some days you'll be like, man, I am glad I joined because now I know other people are more screwed up than me, or right,
Yeah, that's
and that
true.
makes you
Yeah.
feel a little bit better. And then there's other days to be like, man, that is an amazing strategy. Like, for example, on the cash flow, I remember
Yeah.
going through that as well, right? Like, we would always be waiting on clients to get us information for us to do our
Hmm.
job.
Hmm.
We were
Yep.
also only paid a certain percentage up front, and we were going to be paid on the milestone once it was complete, which was totally delayed. And
Yep.
I remember going, man, I'm going to change this. I'm going to get paid on the deliverable or the date, whichever comes first based on the timeline.
Yeah.
When we did that, now I don't have to worry about cash flow anymore.
Yep. We're still pretty bad at that, but we have the most complex billing structure in the universe. So it's helpful. We have time and materials, we have retainers, we have fixed bid, we have milestones, and our ops director wants to murder us for all of that and keeping
Oh, I'm
track of all
sure.
of it. But it makes cash flow a lot more
Yeah.
predictable. So
Now, when you started, did you start with a partner?
nope, I started solo. And I also I was pregnant with my daughter when I started it as my full-time job. So it was really fun. Never took actual vacations. I remember we still host about 300 websites. And I remember we had a host go down. I was on a ski lift in Colorado for the first vacation I'd taken in like 4 years. And I'm over here like troubleshooting, talking to clients, trying to get, our IT, my network admin on the line. And I never want to go back to that.
Yeah. I remember one time, there was a certain CMS that we were using, and someone published a hack on this hacking site about how to hack this CMS.
Oh
And
boy.
so I was on vacation as well, and I remember just seeing a site go down. What they were doing was, since they knew we were a Sitefinity shop, they were going off our portfolio. And literally, we could see the next
Uh-huh.
site going down. They were like, we're going to hack this one. Boom. And we're like, oh,
Oh
this
my
what?
gosh.
Oh, it was so nerve wracking.
That is like the worst case scenario. That's terrible.
Yeah. But the days of hosting. And then I was like, why are we hosting
Yeah.
websites? I was like, let other people do that.
I know. We would not be doing it, but we have a full-time network admin that works for us. And it's a very strange, it's like he kind of doesn't fit with the rest of the agency, but we merged with another agency in 2016. And he came along with that. And they had an IT managed services sort of side business, and they were a straight dev shop. They did a lot of development. And so he came with them, and it's been such a gift because he had enough clients like in the local area where he was just doing networking support to support his salary and support him. But then we have this gift of like a sysadmin who can come in and do all of our DevOps and manage all of our hosting. And he helps
Right.
with our clients get hacked. He helps with domain setup. Because we do marketing too. And so our clients don't know how to set up their DKIM and make sure their domains are good for sending. And so it's great to have that resource without having to tax just our developers with that
Yeah.
kind of stuff. That's a little bit ancillary to what they do. So.
You merged with a company in 16. What was the reason for that?
I was just tired. At that point, it had been 8 or 9 years of me just doing it by myself, I had a daughter. I wanted to be able to chaperone field trips and like spend time with her, which is why, of course, everybody starts their own business. And I realized I wasn't getting that time. And so after being a part of the Bureau of Digital for a while and meeting all these different agency owners, I realized there was such value in having a peer, having peers. So I started having lunch with another local agency owner that we often bid against each other on projects, and then things would go either direction. And we just kind of started talking. We're like, why don't we do this together? Like it was him and another business partner and myself, and all three of our talents and the things that we actually loved doing really complemented each other. They were ants, they were very complementary. And so we thought it would be a great collaboration. I did not love doing sales and outbound, and he loved that. And my other business partner, who's the tech guy and operations guy, and I loved the marketing side and the content side and the creative side. So it really was a good union, and we all came in super casually. I can't even begin to tell you how short our contract was. We all kept the money we had in the bank at the time, and we put 10 grand into an account at the time. And I think I had 12 employees and they had 11 or 10. And we just moved. We kind of decided we had two offices. We were like, okay, we're going to put the dev team over here and the creative team here. And then the, ops team will be in this other office until we could find a place to move together. So it was
Cool.
super casual. Yeah. I loved that I kind of missed that, being able to do that kind of stuff. We can't do that anymore. So
Hmm. Was there anything that you wish you did different?
there are many things I wish we did different. I would say it went swimmingly, but that's because I'm a fly by the seat of my pants type of a person. I wish I'd done a little bit more due diligence on the humans. When we started the buyout process of that partner, I didn't even realize coming in that his wife was actually a partner. And so no, my current business partner was 50%. And then this other guy was 25. And then his wife was 25. And I didn't know that. And so she and I actually had a little bit of friction in the first couple of years when she was not invited to our owners partners meetings. And she's like, I'm just feeling really like demoted. And, I was a partner. I used to be in these meetings. I used to be a part of these conversations. And I was like, you were? I had no idea. I didn't know this was happening. And so I felt a little bit, there was some just mild, like certain things strategically left out of some of the conversations before we merged, but it all ended up with the best case scenario where we bought out that partner and his wife, we ended up loving her. She came in an HR role for us on a part-time basis. But we bought him out and I ended up with the very best business partner in the whole entire universe. So it worked
What
out well.
what was that process like, and what made you guys get to that point to buy that partner out?
He we just slowly became more and more misaligned. He was selling projects very hastily without doing due diligence into the scope. And so our team would be held accountable for delivering to something they couldn't possibly do. And then he would blame it on project management and how they weren't holding it to the scope he had written when he literally was writing contracts that would say, website, $20,000, like no scope whatsoever.
Oof.
Yeah, it was rough. So he was also building a couple other businesses, which we've always been fine with. He had other cider of irons in the fire. And then it got to the point where we were kind of trying to have honest conversations with him, like, hey, when you're dipped out of this, let us know and we'll talk about where that future goes, that sort of a thing. And he didn't. He kind of just stayed involved and stayed involved. But he was building these other businesses. And at one point I walked by, he had an EA that worked for him and she was a friend of mine. And I walked by and I said, hey, how much time are you spending on because we were paying him, our agency was paying her salary. So I said, how much time do you spend on our agency versus his other sort of things he has going on? And she said, honestly, at this point, it's like 10%. And so that day we walked in and we're like, all right, we're done. So, and then we actually had her go back and she had tracked time. So we went back and looked at her timesheets. And so we used that as part of the buyout and said, you owe us this much of her salary for all these other things you're building. And so it made the buyout a lot less than it would have been otherwise based on our valuation.
Did Looking back, did you have in the agreement when you guys merged together kind of a buyout clause so you
We
all
had,
knew how it
yes,
worked?
we did. We had enough. It was a very loose one, but it definitely dictated what how the valuation was going to happen, how we were going to talk about it. And there was no argument. Honestly, it was a very amicable breakup. He kind of knew okay, this is the end. I need to be out of here. And it was an amicable breakup. I wish he had been a little bit more forthcoming about it earlier. I wish we had pushed the case maybe
Yeah.
6-8 months earlier. But other than that, I don't regret it. I think all those things we learned from. And for me, if when I look at the reason I own the agency and the things I wanted out of the partnership, when I say I was able to go I took 5 weeks and went to Spain that first summer because I wanted to spend that time with my kids and my family. And those things that were important to me were so much more important than the financial side of like where we were. So, yeah, so it all worked out.
Well, I applaud you for doing that. When I sold the first agency, one of the main reasons was I just felt like I reached my max, but
Yeah.
felt like the agency outgrew my business partner that I started with for many years. And I just didn't have that courage to go to that. And when we started, I mean, like when we started the agency, I was 22. So the agreement was probably like a paragraph,
Yep.
but we didn't even think about the
Yeah.
end in mind.
Uh-huh.
And I didn't want to have that conversation. I didn't want to have that hard conversation. And
Mhm.
like I think a lot of agencies that I chat with in the mastermind or on the interview, on this podcast, you kind of know it. Like if you get to a point where if someone like your business partner or an employee comes to you and let's say they quit today, would you be happy tomorrow? And if the answer is yes, you know what you need to do. You
Yeah,
need to start making steps and don't prolong it because when you prolong it, it just keeps going and
I know.
going.
Mhm. It's so true. That is something I've learned many times over, unfortunately. But I will say I've heard that advice and I've heard that from people a lot, but a different, it's harder to act on than it
Yeah,
sounds. And that's
big time.
because small agencies have a really hard time hiring for certain positions. And especially when there's highly specialized work that we're delivering and that we've committed to contractually, it's like, okay, I have literally the most annoying. We had a developer who was just like such a downer, just terrible to work with. And everybody hated working with him, but he was just a genius and could write code and could build things that no one else, he could engineer in a way that no one else on our team could. And so we felt so stuck, like we have to wait till the end of this project. And then there was a death in his family. It was like this litany of things where we just felt like we couldn't make these choices. And yeah, so there's so many things personally, professionally that make those decisions hard. So as much as I keep that in my head all the time, I'm like, oh my God, it took us 9 months to find her. How do we hire to replace her or let her go so that we can find somebody to. It's
Yeah.
so hard to do, but it does. You change. Like when you make that switch in your head that somebody's not right for the agency, whatever the reason is, you change how much you involve that person in conversations, the way you talk to and probably about that person. And so, yeah, I mean, the sooner you can make that decision, it has to happen. But oh boy, that's hard.
Yeah. And I think too, within the first month if someone's going to work out or not.
Yeah, I don't know. I sometimes do. Sometimes I'm fooled.
Yeah.
People,
Yeah.
I get easily tricked by people who are really good at managing up to me, where I'm getting a totally different impression than everybody that person's working with. So I might get the murmurings, but I don't always get the full picture. So
Yeah. And I think a lot of us too, we make the decision kind of like what you're just talking about. It's more of I'm not making a decision for the long term. I'm more the short term because it requires me to do so much more work. Or how are we going to get this thing done? When and I remember too. I mean, I made this decision so many times the wrong way,
yeah,
and now I'm like, I don't care. We'll figure it out. We'll put
yeah,
50% of effort into figuring this one solution out, but I know this person's not right
yep,
for this. And
yep,
then they're happier too, kind of like your business partner that you guys bought it
yes,
like
yep,
about time. Like that's what a lot of times they'll say. They're like, "God, what took you guys so long? I was waiting for
yeah.
this."
I know it's true. You're right. It is. We, for the first time in the history, 20 years, 19 years of running this agency, we had somebody who no show, no, like just quit on a Friday morning. And I have never like, that is so, I wouldn't even do that at a fast food restaurant, like that is just the most immature, I have so many words about that, but, and it was a very key position. And it was so strange that we had thought like, yeah, we're so dependent on this human in this role. And boy, it's been 4 months and we haven't even replaced her. And I'm like, it hasn't really been that bad. We figured it out immediately. We knew we had this network of like other agencies, other freelancers we could call in to help us weather the storm. So I agree. I think, okay, so I'm changing my position. You can get through anything. but but you have to plan for that. Like I purposefully build my networks and make sure I've always got, elasticity so that we
Yeah.
can, spring wherever we need to.
Yeah. I had this just happened to us. We hired a marketing person, and she would never call me back. She would text me like 2 days later, "Oh, I'm better at texting or Slack." And I'm like,
uh
"Call me."
yeah.
And like, it's the type of people that have like 5 jobs, I think. That's
Mhm.
kind of what I've learned. Like, I couldn't even fire her. She wouldn't even jump on a call. So I just literally turned off everything. I was like, and I was like, "Please call me." And she's like, "I got the hint." And she wouldn't even call me.
That's so weird.
And she was
Strange.
she was around our age too, right? Like a grown up.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's strange. Yeah.
I knew you were like, "Is this person in the
I was
20s?"
thinking like, yeah, because I was thinking what we had happen to us was we hired somebody who then started not showing up, would never be on camera on Zoom,
Oh,
and then would like send us these very strange emails, and like the work that was happening was looking really sloppy, and we realized he was farming, he was taking jobs and then hiring offshore folks to deliver on the work. So
I
he
mean,
lasted about 2 months till we figured that out. Yeah. And we're like, why won't you turn the camera on? I don't understand what's going on here. Oh, because it's not you on the call. Like you can't even be around to take the call. It's like you put somebody else on it. So,
I saw something funny, and probably a lot of you guys have seen it. It's like this team on Zoom, and the boss is on there. He's like, "All right, Andy, tell me about the strategy." So you would start talking. I'm going to pretend I'm you.
yeah.
So I'd be like, "Oh, Jason, I have the best strategy," and then he'd freeze, right? Like he'd just stop moving. He was just like this. And then the next person is like, "Oh, I can take that over." What Jason was trying to tell you, but the camera was facing up to the fan, so you could see the fan spinning.
Oh,
And the guy's like, "I know you're not frozen." And so everyone started doing this because of, I think it was a pretty funny video.
yep. I'd love that.
Well,
Yeah.
Andy, this has been a lot of fun. Is there anything I
Yeah.
didn't ask you that you think would benefit the listeners listening in?
Hmm. No, I was trying to think about that. And we were talking about, running this business for 20 years and sort of where we're going in the future. And I just have had to realize that there's so much patience that's necessary. And as entrepreneurs, I think we want to do things very, 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 very fast. We repositioned our agency last year, and I thought the second we changed the language on the website, we're going to be good. Let's go. We're ready to
Sunshine and
farm
rainbows.
rolling. Yeah. And no, it's like just a year later now of being present in these new communities and going to different conferences, like we're starting to reap the rewards. But, I'm a very sort of fast mover. I'm action oriented. I just want things to change. And so it's been such a lesson for me in patience. And I know having kids is that same lesson, but it's a little bit different. It at least changes more quickly, and you have more control. But
Well, yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
that's it.
it's patience and consistency, like
Mhm.
constantly showing
Yep.
up. Yeah, we've been doing the podcast for a decade now,
Yeah.
and it's you see people, they'll start recording an episode, and they won't even get like, if you record more than 10 episodes on a podcast, you're in the top 1%. Isn't that
Yeah.
crazy?
Yeah. It is. People just don't. It's if you don't have 20 listeners on the first episode, you won't keep going. You're not going to have that. It just doesn't work that way. So,
Yeah, it's
yep.
nuts. But I think if people follow that rule, consistency and patience, and knowing what you do
Hmm.
today will affect you 6 months to a year from now, and like you just build that
Oh,
momentum, build that foundation,
yep.
you can really kick some butt. So, what's
We
the
still get
agency
leads
website people
from
go and check you guys out?
bigcbigsca.co.
Awesome. Well, everyone go check that out. And if you guys want to be around and find your tribe and find a community that really is transparent, cool, shows up, consistent, can see the things you're not able to see. We'd love to chat with you and see if you're right for our tribe. Go to agencymastery360.com. And until next time, have a swank day. I hope you enjoyed this content. If you want more content like this, make sure you click on the link on the screen or check out your most popular podcast platform where the full episode is there. And until next time, have a swank day. What are you doing? Go check it out.